our final speaker, we're going to power on. We're going to do the break straight after Danny. But Danny Gorog is one of the smartest guys I've ever met. Really, really scary smart. We're either going to be working for him or dead by his hand within a year or two. So you may as well get to know him now. Here is Danny Gorog.
Hello, everyone. Been down there all day. So thanks for all coming, and again, thanks to Anthony for organising a great day. It's great to see so many people in the community, I guess, supporting the community, supporting the platform, and it's very exciting from someone who's in the iOS space and business to see the support. So my slides, I'm not a designer. I'm not a designer and I'm not a developer, but I've got a business building apps essentially called Outware Mobile. And we've been running Outware Mobile for about nearly 3 years in September. And we've got the team's 11 people now, so 11 full-timers, and I'm the only one who's not a developer. So we've had a lot of experience building client apps, which I'll talk a little bit about, but I think I just wanted to give a bit of perspective on how I see the market, how I see apps, and I want to try not to repeat all the things that you've heard today, so I'll probably try and be a little bit faster so we can all get to the Q&A session. So I wear a couple of hats. As I said, I'm one of the 3 directors and co-founder of Outware Mobile. I also, in my past life, was a freelance technology writer, and I've written in the past. I've had regular columns in the Herald Sun. I've got a couple of columns in Macworld. I'm on the radio a couple of times a week, speaking on SEN for about 20 minutes every Tuesday, and on Melbourne Talk Radio for an hour on Sundays with Glenn Ridge. So I kind of wear 2 hats, and I guess I've got a slightly unique experience in this space, and I just wanted to kind of, I guess, wrap that up into the talk and share my experience on both of those things. So I'll talk about Outware Mobile. There are 3 partners. My other partners are software engineers. One of them's a PhD in robotics, and when he's talking to other people in his field, I don't understand what he talks about. It's scary. So I guess I'm the business guy. When we started Outware, I was actually working at, I've had a few businesses in the past, but I was working at an Apple reseller called Emperor's Mind, and we were selling Macs to the enterprise, and everyone knows what Apple's position is with the enterprise, and that was when the global financial crisis hit, and so Emperor's Mind was shut down, and it was a really good kind of push, the push that I needed, I guess, to start an app development business. Now, we're all passionate about the iPhone. I was super excited about the iPhone, got one, imported one from the US, loved it to bits, and thought, how can we make a business out of this? So I guess there are really 2 roads we could have gone down. The first is to build our own software and do the sort of things that you've heard the other 10 guys talk about today, take a punt, make our own apps. And the second approach was to recognise that we thought that mobile was here to stay, and that business would need presence in the mobile space. And we thought that it was a better risk in terms of actually being able to build sustainable business, to go out and talk to those people and build up the skills in mobile development that no one had 3 years ago, and go and approach those sort of businesses and pitch those businesses ideas we thought were relevant and see where it went. And I guess so 3 years later, it's gone reasonably well. The first app we released in September 2009, I guess, was the super racing app for the Herald Sun, and we built that in a few weeks. It was the first app we built. Sorry, this is my next. I'm looking at the other thing. So super racing for the Herald Sun, and that went really well. I think it got to number 3 in the App Store, and it was number 1 sports app. Is to do with the Spring Racing Carnivals for the Melbourne Cup. Went really well. And then the second app we built was a thing called Shop Ethical, which is in its second release, which we took this kind of unique content the Ethical Consumer Group have, which tells you what's ethical and not ethical in the supermarkets, built it into an iPhone app, and people really loved it. This is a slide about the sort of stuff that we've done in the last 12, well, it's actually more than 12 months. So we've built, tested and released over 30 apps. Our clients are sort of Department of Justice, Herald Sun, News, EPA, DPI, Bicycle Victoria, Tourism Victoria, Penguin, Census. We're working with more government departments and seems to be sort of growing all the time. 100,000 downloads of our apps, and most of those are paid. 850 customer reviews, 4+ stars in the App Store. There's a promotion on the App Store, Great Australian Apps. At one time, there were, I think, six of our apps were in there out of about 70. We've launched an app with Margaret Fulton in the Apple Store in Sydney, George Street, and we've been nominated for Create Design Awards. But I wanted to talk to you about, I guess, am I ready to build an app? And I think these are the questions that every potential app developer needs to ask themselves before they go down the road of app development. And I think if the answer is no to any of these questions, then you're probably not ready to get started yet. I think the media, and I guess as part of the media, sometimes we paint a too rosy picture about how exciting and dynamic the App Store is. It is exciting when you get your app to number one and you're featured on the App Store, but for most apps that never happens. I mean, there are only sort of a very small number of slots on the App Store, and as you've seen from even from Matt's talk, which that the Incident's a super successful app, you get a really big sales spike and it drops off really quickly. So to make a business out of an app in the App Store is still really hard work, especially here in Australia where you don't have the size of the market that they do in the US and Europe. So question one, and this is based on experience. We have people come to us every day, probably 5-10 emails a day. I've got a great idea for an app, and the first thing is I ask them, have you got a smartphone? Have you got an iPhone? They go, no. Well, get an iPhone. If you don't have an iPhone, you're not even ready to start thinking about an idea. It always amazes me when I hear people talking about it, pitching me ideas when they don't even have smartphones. And then I think the second thing is, can you explain to yourself, if you've got a smartphone, if you've got apps and you love apps, can you explain to yourself what makes an app great? You've got a front page with a number of slots that you're going to fill. Why have you got the apps that you've got there? What do you like about them? Is it the content? Is it the user interface? Is it whatever it is? Second question, and again, has someone already built a similar app, and if so, why will yours be better? We heard about the Oz TV. There were other TV guys before. I guess the Oz TV guys thought that they'd approach it from a different perspective. They'd have a better user interface and better data and whatever it is, and I think they've done a good job. And there are lots of examples like that on the App Store. I think Twitter is probably the app space to look at to see a number of apps are competing well, and they're all offer slightly different features. Some of them do really well and some of them do really badly. And then you've also got the risk of the platform owner coming out and doing it for you. So you've got Twitter who actually make their own app. So it's a really big risk you're going to take if you're going to invest months and months in development and design. When someone like Apple come out and they take a feature that you've built into the app and they do it better than you could ever do it, and they can market it better. So you've got to be really careful about considering the sort of app you're going to build, and you've got to be very clear in your head about why the app you're going to build will be better. I think this is something that most people don't do enough of, the people that contact me, and that's search some more, and then don't be afraid if you find the apps, don't be afraid, don't just look at the pictures, pay for the apps, download them, play with them, work out what you do and don't like about them, and then make a list of the things that you think that your app is going to do differently or is going to do better. Question 3. Does your app have unique content? The two apps that we've done kind of for ourselves at Outware, one of them was Shop Ethical, and I said that before, it takes the data that the Ethical Consumer Group guys have come up with and puts it into an app, and that's unique data. It's not data that anyone else has or can steal or can use, so I guess we've got a monopoly on that data, and we've really leveraged that, I guess, and it's been a very successful app. It's been number one in reference for ages. It was featured as the iPhone app of the week, been on What's Hot and favourites and all that stuff. It's done very, very well, and it's in its second year. And the other app that we do is called Snap Send Solve, which some of you might have heard of. It's an app that lets you report issues to your local council. And again, there's unique content in that because we have a back-end system and server that we use that has all the local council boundaries mapped out so that we know by your GPS location which council you're in. So that's sort of proprietary data. That's what makes those apps unique. And if I was going to set out and build another app for myself again, I would have to answer those two questions, and the answers would have to be yes, sort of for both. I mean, unique content, you need to have unique content, I think. If it's just a great idea, and I think a couple of the other guys said this before, without unique content, it'll be copied and it'll be cheaper and it'll be nastier, but you can't win. Question 4. I partnered with developers because I sort of understood that development is time consuming and it's very expensive. And I think if you're not a developer, you've got to seriously consider what you bring to the table. If you're a designer, maybe it's you bring the designs, but I think you've got to enter these things, unless you've got lots of money, you've got to enter these things as a partnership where you both kind of share your time equally. But I guess you can't do anything if you're not a developer. I think developers can create apps that look crap and they can put them in the App Store, but designers can't do anything without developers. So I think, are you a developer? And if not, can you afford a developer? And then, about affording developers, well, how much does development cost? We've heard various stories about apps taking 3 weeks to 9 months. Good apps take a long time to release, and then they take a lot of maintenance, a lot of care, and a lot of effort afterwards. So you need to consider all of those things as well when you're doing your numbers if you're thinking about building an app. The fourth question, are you a designer? And again, if you're not a designer, how much are you going to spend on design? And if the answer is 0, then you've failed already. You've got to spend money on design. You've got to get great designers because that's what people see. That's what people think about when they think about your app. So I guess if you're not a designer, you need to budget for it. And if you haven't, give up. And these are the last kind of slides I want to talk about, the marketing plan stuff, because it's all well and good to build a great app and put it in the App Store. But unless you've got a marketing plan, your app will probably fail unless you're one of the very few lucky ones. These are some of the responses I've had when I've asked people about their marketing plans. I'll figure it out after it's launched. That's not an answer. Word of mouth is not an answer. And social media is not an answer. So you need to either know journalists who can write about your app, who'll take your app and play with it, who'll beta test it for you. You've got to... I'm not sure there's no magic secret. You've got to know someone like Gary in the audience who'll give your app a good run in the paper. But you need to understand that marketing is actually probably the hardest part about building and deploying and having a successful app. And then I guess the next question which flows on is, have you got a marketing budget? And if the answer is no, I think you've got a problem. I reckon you've got to be able to invest the same amount of money or time or energy into the marketing as you have into the design and development, because I think it's as important. And then I really just want to end, and I'm faster than everyone, I'm sure, about how will you measure the success of your app in the App Store? Is it number of downloads? Is it the revenue? Is it the repeat use? I think it's really important before you're starting out down the app road to define what that is and be able to track your success against it. Like any business, I think you've got to know when you should keep going and you've got to know when you can give up. And giving up doesn't mean exiting the business. It might mean trying a new app. I mean, part of the learnings that we've had at Outware is that we knew that when we started, even if we wanted to do our own apps, we were no good at building apps. But 3 years down the track, we've got a lot of experience building apps. We've got a common code library that we can leverage to make app development faster. And I think even if your first app isn't successful, it'll give you groundwork and experience, which is important when you go to build your second and your third and fourth app. And I think you'll find that's common across for everyone. And then I think you can't just have a loose, we'll see how it goes. You've got to give yourself hard deadlines, to know when you should move on or when you should give up or whatever. That's it. I was quick because I think a lot of the stuff's been covered. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Danny, for bringing us back on time there.